What if I told you the most endangered mammal in North America was brought back to life not from a zoo, but from a single, tiny population found by a ranch dog? Picture the American prairie at night, a vast, silent sea of grass under a blanket of stars. For thousands of years, a slender, masked hunter moved through these shadows, the black-footed ferret. But by the late 1970s, that shadow had vanished. Scientists declared the species extinct, gone. Then, in 1981, a dog named Shep brought a dead one home, and everything changed. This isn't just a story about saving an animal. It's about a species that died out twice and the desperate, against-all-odds mission to resurrect it from the genetic brink. So how do you bring a ghost back to life? First, you have to understand why it disappeared. The black-footed ferret didn't just fade away, it was linked inextricably to another creature, the prairie dog. Ferrets lived in prairie dog towns, ate prairie dogs, and raised their young in abandoned prairie dog burrows. When settlers and ranchers saw prairie dogs as pests and plowed their towns under, the ferret's world collapsed. Disease finished the job. By the 1970s, it was considered extinct. Then came the miracle. In Medici, Wyoming, a ranch dog named Shep dropped a strange, stiff-bodied animal on his owner's porch. It was a black-footed ferret. Biologists scrambled to the area and found a small colony, maybe 130 individuals. It was the last known population on Earth. Hope surged. But then disaster struck again. Canine distemper and sylvatic plague swept through the colony. Within years, the wild population crashed. In a last-ditch effort, the remaining 18 ferrets were captured. The species was now extinct in the wild for the second time. The clock was ticking. With only 18 founders, the genetic pool was terrifyingly small. Inbreeding was inevitable. Some of the captured ferrets never bred. The future of the entire species hinged on just a handful of animals. The team at the National Black-Footed Ferret Conservation Center faced a near-impossible task. Breed them fast, breed them smart, and somehow prepare them for a world that had already killed them twice. The first breakthrough was learning how to make captivity feel like home. Ferrets are solitary, nocturnal, and highly territorial. They needed space, darkness, and privacy. Keepers built artificial burrow systems, long plastic tubes and nest boxes, to mimic the labyrinthine tunnels of a prairie dog town. They minimized human contact, feeding them at night and using red lights to observe without disturbing their natural rhythms. Slowly, the ferrets started to breed, but breeding in cages was only step one. The real test was whether these captive-born ferrets could survive in the wild. They had to learn skills their parents never taught them: how to hunt, how to avoid predators, how to navigate a vast and dangerous landscape. So biologists created boot camps for young ferrets. Pre-release pens were set up on the prairie, enclosed areas with real prairie dog burrows and live prey. Here, ferrets practiced stalking and killing in a controlled environment. Only the best hunters graduated. Then came reintroduction day. The first site was in Shirley Basin, Wyoming. Biologists opened cages and watched, hearts in throats, as the first cautious ferrets slipped into the wild. Would they remember the ancient rhythms of the prairie? Would they find shelter? Would they eat? For months, teams tracked them with radio collars, holding their breath with every signal. Then, one spring, camera traps captured something magical: a female ferret emerging from a burrow, followed by a wobbly line of kits. The first wild-born generation in decades. The species was back, But the challenges didn't end there. Sylvatic plague, the same disease that nearly wiped them out, still lurked in prairie dog colonies. So scientists developed a vaccine, delivered via edible bait, to protect both ferrets and prairie dogs. They also worked with landowners, many of whom still saw prairie dogs as pests. By involving them in monitoring and habitat management, they turned potential opponents into partners. Today, black-footed ferrets have been reintroduced at more than 30 sites across the West. They're not just surviving in some places, they're beginning to thrive. The black-footed ferret's journey is far from over. It's still one of the most endangered mammals in North America, but its story has rewritten the rules of conservation. It proved that even with a genetic bottleneck, careful science and relentless dedication can pull a species back from the edge. It also showed that saving one animal often means saving an entire ecosystem: the prairie dogs, the grasses, the predators, and the prairie itself. This isn't just the story of a ferret. It's the story of a ghost that learned to live again, a creature that refused to stay extinct, and a reminder that sometimes the most endangered thing isn't a species, it's hope itself. Which animal that's been declared extinct would you most want to see make a comeback? Let me know in the comments. Your choice could be the focus of our next video.